Hi, this is Ashley with DDIY. Welcome to my Frase IO walkthrough. In this video, I'll be walking you through the different features or areas within Frase and how I use Frase.io to create my test article for my fake website called ClubPup. There are three main points that I want to make sure to hit, and that is the organization, template area, and finally article writing. The first area that I really appreciated about Frase is its ability to organize content into folders. This process is pretty simple, as you can see. You just click on New Folder and name it accordingly. We'll call this folder Club Pup. Now, not every AI writing platform has this handy feature, so I wanted to make sure that we call attention to how easy it is to keep everything neat and organized. Next are the templates or AI writing tools, as you'll see on the left-hand side of the web page. As you can see, there are over 30, but there are additional tools under the Community tab that you can choose from. Additionally, there are the SEO tools, which you can tinker with, but for our purposes, we're going to keep on moving. So let's go back to our Club Pup folder. And before we click on New Document, I want to make sure you notice really quickly that there is a document counter up at the top of the page. Frase does have a cap on the number of documents you can create in a month, as well as a character limit, not a word count limit. So make sure you keep track of that as well. You can check those under the account heading over on the left, and then click on subscription. So we are going to make sure that we're starting by clicking on New Document, and we want to create new content rather than doing the optimizing content. So I am just kind of typing in one of the keywords that I had to kind of serve as a jumping off point. And then it's just create document. Now, from here, you're going to see this looks a lot like Google Docs editor. So it's really simple and easy to use. Next, I clicked on the create button again, and this is what the SERP overview, and this is the really cool research feature that Frase has. And as you can see, it gives me about 20 articles or so, along with their headings broken down. And from there, I'm just going to click on outline because I can take these headings and move them over into the explore field, I guess you could say, and it'll start populating. I'm using this based off the outline or content brief that I created first so that I could use this same test sample across multiple platforms. So at this point, I'm just going to pick the headings based on my outline. I'll be selecting a mix of headings that are SERP generated and also ones that I created, but weren't necessarily listed in the other articles that were provided to me. So once you choose a heading or of any, whether it's one that you've generated or one that Frase gave you, you can actually change the heading style or the heading number, I guess you could say. That way it reflects more of where you want it to be, what type of heading you need it to be. Here I'm just showing you how you would create your own heading if that did not actually show up in any of the articles that were provided. So now that I've created my own heading, which was one that I didn't necessarily find, I actually found a close approximation because I wanted to see the difference of output between one that I created and one that Frase generated for me. So I'm going to include both of those in there. Okay, so with the help of a little bit of movie magic, I have now gotten my outline as good as I can get it. So I'm going to click on Save Outline.
And this is going to take me to the editor pane. And as you can see, just briefly, this looks a lot like Google Docs, so it's super easy to use. You guys are probably going to be super familiar with this already. Over here on the right is the outline area, and from here you can still make changes to the headings. So if you want to flip it over to a head 2 or a head 3, you can do that in this pane. Also, you can add in extra headings as I'm doing here, and you can move them up and down. There's a whole range of motion that you can do before you even start putting anything into your editor. Okay. Now you're going to click on Paste Outline to get it into the editor, and it tells you this is saved into editor. At this point, what I'm going to start doing is cleaning up the headings that I got from Frase, because as you can see, it's got some numbering in there that I don't necessarily want to stay in my brief. So I'm going to pull those out, and it will still generate content based off of those headings. So that's not going to be a problem. Now I'm going to use those tabs that I was mentioning in my review article, the content brief and my content tab up at the top. So what I'm doing is I'm copying pasting in from my content brief the outline that I had and putting it into my actual content, and this is where I am gonna get some of the writing done. As you can see, all I have to do over here on the right is I pick the heading that I want, and it's gonna generate the content in just a few seconds, and it kind of gives me my first option here. Now, I'm not necessarily super happy with what is being presented to me right now, so I'm going to load some more. And once I load more, it's going to think for a little bit. And it's going to give me a brand new option. Okay, and this looks a little bit closer to what I want, but oh, I kind of messed up and put it inside my header, so I got to fix that. So make sure you put your cursor where you want it to be, where you want the text to be placed. That was a little oops on my part, but it's not too hard. As you can see, it works a lot like Google Docs, so it's super easy to get this fixed and ready to go. Okay, so I learned from my mistake and went ahead and created a new line. Now I'm going to start writing about my head 3 for puppy, crate, and or pin. And I want it to write about this. Now these are generated based off of the content from the research that Frase did for me. And now we have the output. So even though that this is really long and a little bit more involved than I would probably want for this section, I'm gonna go ahead and copy it up at the top right hand corner of that little text box. I'm going to go ahead and copy it into the article, and I can pare this down as an editor. I know that I can go ahead and fix this, but there's lots of good information in there that I do want to make sure that I keep. So I'm going to scroll down here to this heading that I created called Prepping Kids for Your New Puppy. And again, this is one that I created. It did not come from Frase. It did not come from that research that they generated. So I'm gonna have to come up with my own thing. Now, as you can see, unlike the other times, I could not click on here and tell it write about this. So what I'm gonna have to do is come over here and just put in a chunk of text that I'm just kind of coming up with to test this one out. So I'm gonna write my sentence, and you're going to see what it looks like to expand upon that sentence. So what I'm going to do now that I have my sentence all typed out, I am going to highlight it, and as you can see, you get a little toolbar, and I'm going to click on expand and then write about this, which is a lot very similar to what you saw in the outline when we were working with the Frase generated headings. Now, as you can see, this is not too great. I'm not necessarily happy with this, but I do have this other one from Frase. This particular heading was in one of the articles, so I'm gonna try and write about this and see what it does. Well, that's really short. So let's go ahead and load some more. Okay, that's still a little bit short. I don't know that I'd like to get something a little bit beefier, because I know as a mom it takes a little more than a paragraph to know how to help kids with puppies. So let's go ahead and load some more. Okay, so now we've got the content generated for this particular topic, and notice the difference in the amount of content that you get between the single sentence that I provided versus what is generated based off of the articles from Frase that they gathered in that research that they did for us. Now, at this point, I also want to highlight the need for any AI generated content to have an editor go back behind here. Number one, as you can see, this particular area is, again, a little bit too big, but there is some pretty decent stuff in here that I know I can weed out all the fluff and all that sort of thing, but I need to go back in there and do that. And the second part is that sometimes, you know, this is a machine and it doesn't necessarily know what it's doing and saying. So, which is why you see things like this particular paragraph where it talks about how to teach a child to never pick a puppy up by its neck. It tells you to let them see a video of puppies being attacked and to have them pick up the puppy by the neck as well. All things you would never include as a human writer, which is just awful. But again, this is one of those areas where you need this human editor to be able to go back behind the AI and really clean it up and make sure that the content flows, makes sense, not just the grammatical stuff, but also the content itself. So don't trust the AI to give you a super clean copy the first time out. You are going to have somebody come back behind you and clean this up. So before I go, I wanted to make sure that I shared with you something that happened to me several times, which is this error message. And this is what I'm talking about in my review when I say that this is the love-hate relationship that I have with Frase, because as a whole, this is an excellent platform and I would definitely utilize the tools from Frase, except for this part. This comes from the fact that the plans only allow you 10,000 characters and only allows you 30 documents per month. And I have only done one document per month, and it is this particular article that I'm testing out. And I am already running into, you have to add on more characters for an extra fee, which is kind of annoying, as you can imagine. So let me just say, even though in this particular video I was showing you some of the paragraphs or the sections that were a little bit longer, in retrospect I would probably really pick the small ones and maybe try to blow them out later and make them a little bit longer myself. Or I would pretty much just use Frase to create an outline or a content brief of some sort, rather than actually using it to do a lot of long form writing. And that is because I feel like it prices itself out of being competitive with this type of add-on system, because even no matter what plan you're in, whether that is the basic or all the way up to the enterprise, it all starts out at this 10,000 characters, not words, per month, and that's easily capped out, as you can see, in one article, which is just unfortunate. So make sure you bear that in mind as you tinker around with their 5-day money-back guarantee. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching and listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day.